So the right has gone more and more and more extreme in letting it all hang out when it comes to the LGBTQ community. There was a time after we got gay marriage brought to us by the Supreme Court and their interpretation of equal protection under the law. It did feel like, okay, well, we turned a corner. And at least on that issue, we're good now. But there's this recent massive backlash. And a lot of it's brought about as a result of trans issues. And the right has really leaned into being anti-trans. And, their whole thing is like, well, we want to protect the kids, man. And we think that these groomer teachers are telling little Bobby, who's 7 years old, don't you want to cut off your dick and balls, Bobby? And then Bobby's going to his dad and going, Papa, I want to chop off my dick and balls. And his dad is going, let's take you to get butchered, son. This is what they believe. And this is what they say, right? They think that their gender ideology is grooming kids into following a fad of being trans. That's what they think. But then they kept overreaching. I mean, each day they got more extreme than the previous day. And then we got to the point where there's red states that are proposing legislation to have no treatment, no hormones, no puberty blockers, no surgeries, no nothing until age 26. Well into you being an adult. Flat out against liberty, against freedom, against bodily autonomy. They're overreaching, right? But now it's getting to a point where they've gone even further. And at this point, they had to have lost like all of normie America. So here is Daily Wire host Michael Knowles following the Matt Walsh lead, following the Ben Shapiro lead. And listen to what he says here. He's going to talk about, Target and Bud Light and all these companies that were doing these pro-LGBTQ campaigns. Of course, Target was effectively bullied by the right into hiding their pride displays because there was a bunch of threats and right-wingers who were going nuts at them. Listen to what Knowles says here.
We've got to keep up that pressure. Matt made this point. He articulated it directly, but this has been the point that has been building for months now, which is we need to make that symbol toxic. The pride flag symbol, we need to make that toxic. We need to have companies think twice about it. Everyone was talking about the Dylan Mulvaney incident as being harmful to the Bud Light brand. That's true. But more importantly, it was harmful to the Dylan Mulvaney brand. Now other companies are going to think twice before sponsoring Dylan Mulvaney because they don't want to lose $6 billion in market cap in 2 days. That's what we got to do. And then once we make these things culturally toxic, or as we're making these symbols culturally toxic, we've got to bring in the cavalry. We've got to come back in with more political force to ban some of this stuff.
Ban what? What do you want to ban? I mean, you're talking in the context of Target having like a LGBTQ pride display where they sell like rainbow attire. Do you want to ban selling rainbow attire? What do you want to ban? Do you want to go back and ban gay marriage? Do you want to fully ban anybody being trans? Do you want to get rid of any displays of support for that community? It sounds like to me you're kind of open to doing any of it and all of it. I mean, what is there to say, man? Not only do you lose normie America with this stuff, but on its face, it is brutal and it is oppressive, right? Like the LGBTQ flag, like it or not, what it represents is the freedom to live as you really are. That's what it represents. And these guys in no uncertain terms are saying, I'm against that. I'm against it. Why? Because they believe it is degeneracy. And they believe degeneracy should be criminalized. In other words, they believe it should be enforced traditionalism. They want to leave it to Beaver stuff. They want the one man, one woman, white picket fence, one dog, 2 or 3 kids. That's what they want. That's what they want. And they want to force that onto everybody. Well, guess what? Back when we had that, what they think is an ideal, it wasn't really ideal, number one. Number two, we didn't even really have it. There's that famous meme that was going around where it shows like, the family that's supposed to be the ideal family from the 1950s. And it's like, the dad is like, it says, I'm secretly gay by the dad. By the wife, it says, I can't get through a day without massive amounts of drugs. By the grandpa, it says like, I molested my granddaughter. It's like all this terrible stuff. And it's like, throughout history, people have had issues, right? And it's not like if you force them into this socially constructed mold that all of a sudden everything's wonderful, everything's dandy, and everything works out. That's not the way it works. You're just rigidly trying to enforce a made-up ideal on people. Just let people live as they want to live and let the chips fall where they may. And I think we'd be a much healthier society if people can be whoever they are as individuals, but they are very clearly and explicitly against that. Because for whatever reason, religious ideology, because they're tyrants, whatever it might be, they want to control everybody. And ironically, because they charge the left with that, right? Like, oh, you want to control the kids and make them gay or trans or whatever. It's like, the only people who are controlling anybody here are you guys. Because you're talking about making it culturally toxic and then banning some of this stuff. So again, I follow up. What exactly do you want to ban, Michael Knowles? Be specific. Don't dance around it. Let it all hang out. And guess what? If he does answer that, and he does let it all hang out, congratulations, you just dropped another 5 or 10 points in the polls, because normie Americans are not with you, man. Normie Americans are not with you at all. They leaned in the midterms, right? They did a whole bunch of anti-trans ads. They did a whole bunch of fear-mongering crime ads, and they didn't win. They abandoned bread and butter issues. And then here we are. They're doubling down. They're tripling down. They're embarrassing themselves. And of course, look, they've bullied, effectively, Bud Light into not doing, the stuff with Dylan Mulvaney. Who cares? It's just a goofy ad trying to reach a new market of trans people, and they're flip out over it, act like it's incredibly egregious. You go every other week, there's a new company that they're boycotting for some other dumb reason. Remember when they were boycotting some chocolate company, and then Daily Wire did their own chocolate company to compete with the woke chocolate company? And guess what? The company was Hershey's. They had a problem with some, virtue signaling on social issues. They didn't have a problem when it came out that Hershey's and Nestle or whatever it was literally doing slavery in South America. Remember that? And the Supreme Court ruled, that's A-okay, man. They didn't want to boycott it over slavery. They wanted to boycott it over because they virtue signal. I mean, it shows you there is no real moral compass. These people are absolute clowns and goofballs, but they're dangerous clowns and dangerous goofballs. So anyway, another day that ends in Y, another day that the Daily Wire is obsessed with the LGBTQ community. And it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.